All right, guys, I just want to welcome back to your Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick will be discussing 7 quarterback battles to keep an eye on as we enter spring ball. This is the beginning of March, so it is right around the corner. Some of these teams, Nick, they have to replace high, impactful starters. If you're looking for your specific team, the timestamp will be below. To kick things off, we're going to start with the defending national champions, 2-time national champions, that is, and the Georgia Bulldogs, Stetson Bennett. He's gone to the NFL, and now we have a 3-way race to replace him. Of course, Mike Bobo's going to be offensive coordinator, Todd Monken departs. That's something that's pretty notable as well, but the system is going to, Nick, be largely the same. Carson Beck, this is a guy that had a 74% completion rate last year, only threw 35 passes, though, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He wasn't as sharp on only 23 passes in 2021. Very minimal, examples here of Carson Beck. But this is a guy that has high football IQ. He's a student of the game. A guy with a big arm, some good feet, moves very well in the pocket. His ability to go through reads is one thing that certainly stands out about him. One of his top highlights, I'd say, was the elite throw he made on the run versus Vanderbilt for a touchdown in a game last year. He also has good rip on the football. Carson Beck, this is a guy that has the experience, so certainly going into the spring, he's going to have the edge. But he also has 2 former highly touted recruits breathing down his neck. Brock Vandagriff. This is a guy they probably don't want to transfer, but it's certainly an interesting situation he is in. This is a guy that utilizes a variety of arm angles, deep velocity. Wasn't exactly A+ coming out of high school, but this is a player that's been ready and waiting, I'd say, to be a starter. Good speed on scrambles. He can throw with power on the run. He really winds up when he throws, though, Nick. This is, it's not a snappy release, especially on deep throws. When he's really winding up is one of the negatives that I really took away from watching his film. And the mechanics also need to be worked on a good bit. He's a confident player, though, regardless. Skills as a runner. I believe he can be a real danger in the pocket if he tightens up that release. He throws off his back foot way too often also. So he has a handful of things to clean up, but a high upside player. And, a guy Gunnar Stockton who can round it out here. The guy Kirby said plays with a lot of confidence in his own right. This is a guy that understands the system. He's accurate, knows how to attack the defense. He really exposed this defense as the scout team QB, and that's where a lot of these positives are coming from. Has a quicker release than Vandagriff as well. This is a tight window thrower, plenty of arm vertically, a nice touch passer. He trusts his protection. He has a winner's attitude as well. Gunnar Stockton is a guy I like out of these 3, Nick. Will he be the starter, though? That remains to be seen. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting battle here. Carson Beck's a solid quarterback. We saw him at times in the past season. I like the good anticipation, really well in the pocket. I really like what he can do. I think the size is great too. 6'4", 215, really good size there. When I look at Vandagriff, I think he's probably going to transfer. I saw some rumors on social media discussing potentially a move to Auburn. I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen, but that's something to think about. Georgia Southern potentially may be involved as well. I think Vandagriff has a lot of potential as well. Good size, great arm strength, solid mechanics as well. But I just don't think he's going to be quite ready to take over. And then Gunnar Stockton's the one that's really the interesting of the 3 here. He has the best chance to kind of make that move and jump in there. The upside with him is ridiculous. Incredible arm strength, really good quick release, good field vision, pretty good football IQ as well in the limited tape we've seen. So I think this is an interesting battle. I like Beck a lot here. I think Beck's got the best option for Georgia, but of course losing Todd Monken is certainly something to kind of think and see how that affects this as they have a new offensive coordinator down in Athens. That certainly kind of changes this battle and makes it one of the more intriguing one in college football.
Now that moves us to who will start and why. One of the biggest knocks on Kirby Smart is that he's not done a great job of picking quarterbacks during his tenure. And I would say, obviously, it worked with Stetson Bennett, but this is such a team that's great on defense, and the system is, so well coached and executed, mainly because of Todd Monken. That Stetson Bennett was kind of sheltered, I would say. Obviously, yeah, he was impressive for them. He certainly had shattered expectations that he had as a former walk-on and whatnot. We all know the story. But, how do you expect Kirby to manage this situation, Nick? And before I want you to answer that, the 3 guys here, Beck, I think the experience in the system, the quite impressive raw talent that he has, I think is why he will be the number 1 guy. Vandagriff, he seems to have the highest upside of the bunch in the pure arm talent. And then Stockton, of course, impressed as a scout team passer and the football IQ. We both have Carson Beck as the starter, but what's your assessment of Kirby Smart in picking quarterbacks during his time?
Yeah, certainly in the past we've seen some interesting moves. He skipped out on Justin Fields and went with Jake Fromm instead. Some people question whether or not that was the right decision. Of course, Fields is now a starter in the NFL for the Chicago Bears, had a very impressive end to his career at Ohio State, while Fromm didn't really work out. Well, Fromm had a solid career in college, right? He was a good game manager. He's not going to really work out in the pros, and it's just kind of been a backup. I know he was with the Giants at one point. So it certainly is, kind of, you look at that and see what is Kirby Smart doing with the talent? Is he making the right decision? I think Beck is the right decision here. I think the experience is great, and the raw talent is certainly there. But they could go with a guy like Vandagriff. and that would be the decision they make. And Georgia, picking Vandegrift would be something that they could potentially do with the pure arm talent and the upside. Stockton, I think he's got another year to sit and wait, because I think, again, scout team, I think he's going to continue to improve. I think Stockton will start in the future. But really, it could be a toss-up here. They could go anywhere. I think that this is an interesting setup here, and there's a lot of potential.
Another elite team in the SEC replacing a very quality starter. Bryce Young, former Heisman Trophy winner, figures to be the top overall pick in the NFL draft, if not the top quarterback selected. Two interesting prospects here. Jalen Milroe, 6'2", 212. He's a great runner, very exceptional speed, great build. This guy has a big arm. Some of the negatives about him, though, of course, he had to fill in for Young when he was hurt last year, and I'd say, he performed, less than stellar. The Arkansas game, he certainly bailed them out. It was late in that game. Arkansas was mounting a comeback. It was a one-score game. The Hogs were on the prowl. It was 3rd and 10, and Bill O'Brien trusted Milroe's legs so much that he called a quarterback draw, and he took his 70 yards or 60 yards, something like that, and that ended up breaking the game wide open. Nick, I've never seen such a momentum shift, because Arkansas was one play away there from potentially tying it up a few minutes later. Being a panic thrower, his accuracy and confidence with the ball through the air, it just seems lacking with Jalen Milroe, and I don't think that's something that Nick Saban's going to want in this system, but that makes you wonder why he recruited him in the first place, though, Nick. So what are your thoughts on Jalen Milroe before you look at the competition and Ty Simpson?
Yeah, certainly interesting to see what Jalen Milroe, the theory right now in Tuscaloosa is divided, right? Some people love Milroe, some people are not a fan of him, right? I lean more on the Ty Simpson side of the ball game, but I think Milroe has upside. We saw plays for him. It can certainly work well, right? Bill O'Brien called that quarterback draw on 3rd and 10. A huge gain. Milroe held his own in the game against Arkansas, picked up some nice plays on the ground, but also Jahmyr Gibbs really helped him out there. Then when you look at the A&M game, 3 turnovers. And I'll be honest, A&M had no business being in that game in Tuscaloosa, and they could have won it, right? It took a defensive play to save the game on the goal line. They could have literally won that game. Alabama made mistakes on defense that night, but they made mistakes on offense. Milroe had 3 turnovers and just did not look comfortable, and really looked like he was not ready for the spotlight. Of course, another year of practice will certainly help with that, but I think he's more kind of like a gadget type player. Certainly could be used in the offense this season. I think there's a way to use him, but I just don't think he should be starting quarterback. I think Alabama needs to go back to the traditional pocket passer and kind of find someone that can really sling it to these talented wide receivers that are coming in Tuscaloosa.
One more note on that Arkansas game is that Gibbs in the running game kind of struggled that afternoon until that long run by Milroe, and the threat of his legs opened the door for Gibbs to rip off some of those long touchdowns. I think it was 2 70-plus yarders there to cap that one off. Competition, though, in Ty Simpson, the offense he played in high school was a spread option attack. So Milroe, of course, he's a big playmaker on his feet, but Simpson has some of those underrated attributes as well. Running that offense allows you to develop quick feet, nice agility, football IQ, and running the ball. So I think Simpson comes to the table with those that are certainly not being talked about enough because of what he did in high school. It also translates to being stout in the pocket. He seems to be a Matt Corral type of player. I think he's better than Jalen Milroe because he's also really good with the ball in his hands, throwing downfield with accuracy, and he has strength at every level, some good feet, clean throwing motion here. Not only does he seem to be a more talented prospect, he seems to probably be a better fit for what Tommy Rees is going to bring to the table, and not a guy in Jalen Milroe who seems to make his best plays while running the football.
I think Ty Simpson here is a fantastic option. The size doesn't worry me as much as some people. 6'1", 185. I think it's all right. Accuracy, strength, fantastic. Good feet, great in the pocket, clean throwing motion. I called him a bit of a pocket passer, but he can move on his legs as well. I think he more leans pocket passer type of option, but he can also make plays on his feet if necessary. I like Ty Simpson a lot here. I think the upside is certainly there. Very talented young quarterback. We saw him in a few, pieces here at the end of game. Garbage time minutes looked okay. Of course, another full practice. We'll see him at A-Day in April. I think there's a real opportunity here for Simpson to take this team over and be the leader this team could use and kind of get this position and lock it down for himself.
Yeah, for Simpson, of course, a little bit undersized. This was also his size, I believe, last year, so I'm not sure how much bulk he's added on. No official numbers on that. So he's potentially a little bit bigger. And how will he battle under pressure? That's always, a conversation of young quarterbacks. Who will be the starter and why? I think for Milroe, 2 years at Alabama in this system. That's about it. It's really a new system now. And Ty Simpson, highest potential in the group. He's a better fit. Of course, they brought in 2 guys in this recruiting class. But I think Simpson's going to be the starter here. Milroe certainly is exciting. I think they might draw up some packages for him, but I don't see him getting many touches this year under center.
I agree. I think Simpson's got to be the guy for me here. I think the potential is really exciting with Tommy Rees coming in as new offensive coordinator. They can dial up their own sort of plays for him and build this offense around Simpson's strength. I think it's certainly the best option that the Crimson Tide have right now as they kind of move into this post-Bryce Young era. I think Simpson's got to be the starter here.
Speaking of other teams losing a high-end starter, to, a high-end draft pick in the NFL. C.J. Stroud in Ohio State. Looking at Kyle McCord in his first start versus Akron back in 2021, C.J. Stroud missed a game, and he was given the nod. He had 3 straight balls that were awful on his first drive. The nerve certainly got to him. Had a ball in the next drive that got tipped after an underthrow. So McCord certainly was rattled in his first start at Ohio State. Settled down after that, started ripping it around. Good touch, nice accuracy down the field. He got a 30-yard downfield touchdown. It was in a tight window. Had a 45-yard throw before the half as well. So he started to uncork some deep ones. Had an interception in the second half where he stepped up in the pocket. He had some space on his left side where he could have made a throw downfield, but instead he panicked and overthrew his covered tight end in the flat for an interception. Overall, he had a few good throws, but was really just a distributor that day en route to a big win over a minimal opponent. 319 yards, 2 touchdowns, that 1 pick on 13 completions. That's it. That's all the sample size we have on Kyle McCord. He's going to battle with Devin Brown, a thinner frame. Certainly has more quickness, much more nimble on the move, I would say, than Kyle. He has that release, though. Much more mobility, allows him to be a gamer on the run. Seen a play in the spring game, clean pocket, he pump faked, which for some reason backed him up about 3 yards when he did that, and then he let it sail for 50 yards. But overthrew his guy that was wide open on a go route. That was just a very odd play, and the lack of touch was certainly evident on that one. There was another one late in the game on 4th and long where he had some space on the right side to evade pressure or clear a lane. Instead, he underthrew a wide receiver that won his one-on-one. Would have been a touchdown. Was praised as a good distributor to all levels, though. This is a guy that has touch and accuracy over the middle, a quick release. Those are all big keys to this offense, and that's why this battle is so tough to predict, Nick, because McCord, he's certainly been around a little bit longer. He's also a former 5-star himself. McCord, I believe, was 4-star, 6'3", 222, some good size, but those attributes I just listed of Devin Brown, again, that's exactly what you need to thrive in this system, and that's what he brings to the table, the Utah native.
Yeah, I like Kyle McCord a lot. I think Devin Brown's also a really talented quarterback. McCord, the strong-armed, good player. The Akron film, it got better throughout the game. Certainly it was a rough start here. I think McCord's been in the system for a while, comfortable here. I think they know what they're looking for. The size, 6'3", 222. I think that's a really good size to this quarterback. I think he's a good kind of leader, good under pressure. I think he's going to continue to learn the locker room and develop and grow over time. Devin Brown adds a lot to this team potentially as well, though, right? I think he's, very impressed in high school recently. Had a great year at Utah playing for a very talented school that's produced some seriously talented players in the past. I believe Zach Wilson attended that high school. Devin Brown's got a lot of velocity, comfortable moving out of the pocket, quick release, good zip. I think this could go either way. I think Ohio State's a very interesting one because there's a lot of potential here. But I think both these options are fantastic, and I think that they really have a good option considering they're transitioning. Ryan Day is no longer calling the plays anymore. They're transitioning to a new play caller. Ryan Day is going to focus on more of the day-to-day operations in Columbus. So I think this is very interesting to see what the offensive coordinator does and kind of builds this new quarterback and builds a new system around it.
Yeah, Brian Hartline will shift into the offensive coordinator position. He'll continue to work with the wide receivers as well. And who will start? I think Kyle McCord, 3 years in the system, X5-star. I think he's going to get the nod. Brown certainly impressed in 2022, in the spring game and in practice. However they used him, they were impressed with him. Has a variety of skills, again, that benefit this offense. We're both going to go with Kyle McCord to be the starter, though. Should not be any issues in Columbus. It never is when it goes to transitioning to a different quarterback. Now, looking at Ole Miss, this is probably the most interesting one, Nick. What do you think is the vision here? Because Jackson Dart, obviously, he was a starter last year, came over from USC, 6'2", 220. He certainly was up and down. This is a guy that really struggled to get the ball behind the linebackers, not high or fast enough, I thought. He was forced to use his legs, in this offense. That's something Matt Corral certainly shined with. And it allowed him, Dart, to showcase some of his aggressiveness. He loves to just throw, lofting balls off his back foot, something I don't really like to see. Showed good timing on the inside breaking routes, decision-making and accuracy certainly were lacking, though. Had a play versus Kentucky where he blatantly gets fooled by the slot cornerback and he throws it almost right to him instead of a guy being, open on a curl route. From a numbers standpoint, as a passing attack, they were the exact same as 2021, but they didn't possess the same threat to opponents vertically, even though, again, the numbers were really the same. They only had 4 games of 250-plus passing yards this past season. 2 with 300-plus. They had 1 versus Texas Tech. One of those was against the Red Raiders in the bowl game. He also had 3 interceptions with a season-high 41 passing attempts, so those numbers were certainly a little bit inflated, Nick. Spencer Sanders, he comes over from Oklahoma State. He's best on the run. We can throw outside with accuracy when on the move. This is a dual-threat guy, good runner. Doesn't seem to be an RPO fit by any means, but the QB legs are a big part of this offense, and he ran a lot of pistol at Oklahoma State. So I think that's why he's probably a better fit for this offense than potentially Walker Howard. His decision-making consistency has been a big struggle for the Cowboys over the past couple of years. 40 interceptions, 61% completion rate in his career. A little south of 2,000 career rushing yards, though. And then again, Walker Howard, another addition they picked up at the same exact time, right there at the buzzer for the portal. 40th ranked prospect in 2022. This is a guy that's consistent accuracy, even on the move. Great zip, carries the ball well, good feel for the offense, at least when he was in high school. A confident player. The fundamentals, the size, the arm strength will certainly get better. Again, Nick, what is the vision here? Because Lane Kiffin brought in Jackson Dart, had an up and down year, clearly bringing in two guys at the end of the portal cycle that could potentially be starters elsewhere. What is the vision here?
Yeah, this is a very weird one from Lane Kiffin down in Oxford. Jackson Dart, I didn't think it was terrible last year. It certainly didn't live up to the hype that they were hoping for him, but I thought Dart had a decent season. Learning all.
I like the size of Dart a lot. I think,
good
velocity,
good able to, move on the run, tough. He takes a lot of big hits, took some big hits against the Alabama game, and was able to kind of get himself back up and shrug that off like a champion. They look at Spencer Sanders, right? Great career at Oklahoma State, right? One of the better quarterbacks the Cowboys have had in a while. Great leader there, tons of experience, dual threat playmaker, really worked great in the Mike Gundy offense. Was a lot of fun to watch at Oklahoma State. Kind of shocked me they went to Ole Miss. I really didn't think that was the best spot for him. And then you look at Walker Howard as well. We talked about TCU, we talked about Auburn. I think there was a lot of different options here for Walker Howard. I think he's also, definitely weighs a bit less than the two guys in front of him, but they're all roughly around the same height. Good accuracy, confident in the passer. I thought, if they grabbed Howard, he would be the starter out of the portal, and they grabbed Sanders as well. So I don't really know what Kiffin's trying to do. It's kind of tough to figure out what Lane Kiffin's doing. It seems like he doesn't really know what he's doing. Sometimes he's kind of just throwing stuff around and hoping something works out. This is an interesting battle because these are all three guys could start on this team right now and could start on other teams, the SEC. And I really just don't know if Kiffin's going to go with the guy that's got the experience or he needs to go with one of the two guys from the transfer portal.
That leads us to who will start and why. I think Jackson Dart, 1 year under his belt, Corral-type progression. Remember, year two for Matt Corral was very, beneficial for him, considering, how bad his decision-making was in his first year. I mean, there was a game where he had, 7 interceptions against Arkansas, and then a year later, he's just dealing it all around. Sanders, intriguing skill set for the system, a 4-year starter. Again, I don't think he's an exact RPO fit, but considering how many, designed runs they have with the quarterback, I think that's something that's certainly beneficial for him. This isn't a guy that has great velocity across the middle and doesn't always make the best decisions. So that's why I think this might not be the best fit, but it's certainly, again, an intriguing skill set. The accuracy and movement combo for Howard, it may be the best of the trio, and I think that's why he could potentially be the starter. I'm going to go with Spencer Sanders just because I think, again, the legs are such a big part of the offense, and that's what Sanders does best. And, of course, I think the experience as well. You're going to stick with Jackson Dart, though. Are you feeling a Matt Corral type of progression like I alluded to a minute ago?
I am going to benefit the incumbent in this situation. I think Jackson Dart, I think he does have the chance to progress like Matt Corral. I think he's going to get another year under his belt, another year in practice. I think the potential there is just too high for Lane Kiffin to make a move here. I think he's got to grow and continue to develop under the system. I think he has the potential to be that sort of Matt Corral type progression and really start to exceed those expectations. I love Jackson Dart here. I think there's a lot of potential to continue to grow, and I think this is the best fit for the Ole Miss Rebels currently.
And if Dart does remain the start, it'll be interesting to see if Sanders and Howard stick around. I mean, they're well aware of the situation they're in, but this is going to be very interesting short-term and long-term as well. Look at the Texas Longhorns. 2 number 1 prospects are throwing down in Austin. Nick Quinn Ewers, 6'2", 207, comes over from Ohio State where he went to the Columbus, made a couple $1 million or so, and then, he didn't play at all and transfers to Texas where he always wanted to be. Kind of, finessed the transfer rules and whatnot. I think a lot of people are alluding to. This is a guy that certainly had a very strange back half of the season. You remember, his first glimpse of him came against Alabama before he got hurt. He was dishing it around against them. A lot of people felt like Texas would have won that game if he didn't get hurt. This is a guy that has a good deep ball. It hangs in the air a while. Great arm talent with good placement. Very good on the move. Inconsistent touch, though. Impatient at times. Rushes his throws. He will lock onto the one target instead of scanning the field. Doesn't always look to create, though, and he has the abilities to do so. So I certainly want to see him, try to progress in that area. He either airmails it versus pressure, or he just stands there and delivers a good ball. That's the kind of inconsistency we're looking at. Doesn't really match one bit. In one game that I wanted to see was Oklahoma State, where he just struggled immensely. Completed, I think, 37% in that one. His last interception versus the Pokes, if he stepped to the left to evade pressure, he had a wide receiver who won across the middle for a first down. Instead, forced it downfield, easy interception, game was over. Backside rusher did have some penetration, but if he would have looked to create instead of forcing it downfield, which you should more certainly do on a 4th down, they would have probably potentially even won that game or hung it in there for a second. So that's the take on Quinn Ewers, and he's in a battle with Arch Manning, 6'4", 215. The Horns, they were able to land one of the most highly coveted prospects of all time. This is a guy that can drive the ball downfield with good velocity, some great touch and placement, good physical tools of his own right. Decisions and accuracy waver under pressure, and I think patience as well was something that was a negative in his scouting report. So you have two very similar players here, Nick. Again, two former number ones. Quinn Ewers very inconsistent, especially in the back half of the year. This is going to be a very tough job here for Sark because Ewers, he has a lot of potential, but Arch Manning's not going to wait around long, I wouldn't figure.
I agree. This is a very interesting battle here in Austin. Quinn Ewers, like you said, kind of finessed the NIL system with going to Ohio State and coming back to Texas, where he really seemed like he always wanted to go. Grew up in Southlake, played at Southlake Carroll High School, fantastic high school. Has produced some seriously talented quarterbacks in the past. So he comes back to Austin. Looked good when he was playing fully healthy. He battled some injuries. I thought he looked solid overall for Texas this year. I think there's a lot of room to grow there. He is the number one prospect in his class for a reason, right? He's very talented. There's so much raw talent there. The deep ball is fantastic. He's got to be able to look away the defenders from his targets. He kind of just focuses on one guy like you alluded to. He's got to look away the defenders and make a play. It's too easy to read him on some occasions. Doesn't really create when he needs to. Then look at Arch Manning. I have been an Arch Manning fan since day one, right? I think he is all the hype there. People say that he's getting too much hype because of his name. I don't agree with that statement. I think he is the real deal. And the only thing that concerns me, right, is the jump up from his high school level, which I believe was 2A ball in Louisiana, to jump up to, college Division I, Big 12, then eventually SEC ball is going to be a huge adjustment. But the size, 6'4", 215, fantastic. You cannot ask for a better size there. Great velocity, great touch. I love Arch Manning top to bottom.
I think this is a great spot for him to land.
I think Sark really got himself a golden goose here that can really work and build around this. I just think that right now Quinn Ewers should get the job for now, but I think Arch Manning's breathing right down his neck.
That leads us to who will start, and of course why that will be them. I think we're both going to go Quinn Ewers. He's obviously going to be the starter. He's still a former number one recruit who was impressive at times in 2022. Plenty of untapped potential with him. I think for Manning, why would he start? I mean, the hype causes too much pressure for Sark to be patient. He's also, again, a former number one prospect who has talent. We're going to go with Quinn Ewers here. But Nick, again, we allude to all that hype. Sark is, this is great. Like you said, that golden goose that he got. But at the same time, there's plenty of backdraws to this as well. There's going to be a lot of people not saying a lot of things. I mean, the first 3 and out Ewers has in the week 1 game, they're going to be calling for Arch. So this is not the best situation, I'd say, for Sark. Obviously, it's great. You got a number one prospect. But I think the negatives are just too much right now. Bad timing to land the top-ranked quarterback named Arch Manning. This is just a very strange situation. Kind of what are your thoughts on that part of it?
Yeah, I certainly agree with you that there is a lot to this. I don't personally think Sark is on the hot seat, right? I think that it's too early to kind of make that comment. With the transitions to the SEC, I think that it would be foolish of either Oklahoma or Texas to make a coaching change. I think Oklahoma's not going to make a change with Brett Venables, and they just hired him. I think it would be foolish to make a change with the move to the SEC coming soon. I think Sark, obviously the Texas job was always going to come with a lot of pressure, right? The fans in Austin demand success from day one. They want to be competing for national championships year in, year out, and they just have not for the last 10 to 15 years. Sark has 2 really talented quarterbacks here, right? The recruiting has been fantastic in Austin. This team, they're putting together great recruiting classes. When you bring in a guy like Manning, who has a lot of hype,
Point there, right? If Ewers has a bad game,
they struggle game 1, they struggle game 2, especially they come to Tuscaloosa week 2. Do they struggle there? The fans are going to be hounding for Manning to get the start, and I just think that you got to be able to balance that. I believe Sark can balance it. He's balanced tough situations.
But I wouldn't want to be making this decision because if you get it wrong,
you potentially lose your job here, right? Texas is disappointed the last 2 years. The margin for error is very slim in Austin. I think you got to be careful here. I would pick Ewers. I think you would also pick Ewers, but Manning, it's going to be neck and neck. He's right there. And if things start to fall apart week 3, week 4, we could see Manning jump in very quickly.
Which could certainly hinder his development if he's forced to come in early and replace a guy in Ewers. So very interesting situation in Austin. Leads us to Los Angeles, UCLA. Who's going to replace Dorian Thompson-Robinson and his leadership? Looking at Colin Schlee, coming over from Kent State, 6'3", 213. This guy's a very impressive player. He's creative with angles, good on the move, and athletic, willing runner, always in a throw-ready position, a crafty, savvy player. Very good fit for this offense. A good arm, but not a great one by any means. He at times will get too antsy with his feet. Schlee, though, he was very good for Kent State. 59% completion rate, 2,100 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 5 picks. Only threw the ball about 24 times per game. So those numbers are certainly kind of in line with what their offense is asking for. Also ran for 492 and 4 scores. Player I really like coming from Kent State. The biggest controversy here is Dante Moore. They were able to flip him on the final day of the recruitment from Oregon. This is a guy that's tough in the pocket, some good touch, understands control, throws wide receivers open, enough mobility, and he's an elite accuracy. very hard worker as well. The velocity certainly needs some work. He may not be strong in the designated run category either, which is certainly going to be a big part of this offense. But Dante Moore, a very intriguing prospect. UCLA landed him at the last minute. This certainly hasn't been talked about enough. But Moore, this could be the starter for the next 3 or 4 years, kind of like DTR was, which would be just perfect for UCLA if they could do that, have the same two-name start over an 8-year stretch. And Garbers, the pocket presence and the good arm strength is a reason for him. Lacking the mobility department, I don't think he's going to have a fair shot here, Nick, because you have an experienced guy coming over from Kent State, and you have a 5-star prospect, Ethan Garbers. Unfortunately for him, is going to be the odd man out.
Shuli coming over from
Kent State's a fantastic player, good size, good angles, can run, crafty player. I think we saw that. Sometimes he gets a little antsy in the pocket, but I think he's a talented player. Of course, Dante Moore, right, the big recruit for a reason, right? I think he will transfer if he doesn't get the opportunity to start soon. I think they flipped him for a reason, right? They must have told him something. I like the football IQ there, good accuracy. Ethan Garber as well. I just don't see Garber really fitting in here. I think Garber's a good player, but I think he's got transfer written all over him as well. This is a very interesting battle out in LA, right? They're replacing DTR, who's a really talented quarterback, had a great career in LA. I think this is, a toss-up on the list. I think Moore's got a great case for himself. He's a high later recruit. To flip a recruit that late in the cycle is huge. You don't really see that happen that often anymore in the age of NIL. These players are kind of committing to their teams early and sticking around. But Moore flips late in the cycle, so I certainly think of the ones that I've picked so far, this is the pick I'm the least confident in. But I think you got to go with the guy that's got the experience playing at a program like Kent State, who's not a bad team at all.
I just think Shlee is a great fit for this offense with the traits I listed off. It just seems to be like, kind of a carbon copy of DTR. The leadership's obviously going to be questionable. Let's see what he can do to come in and win his teammates early. Garbers, again, the big arm, the pocket presence. He's waited, 2 years now at UCLA. I don't think he will start, though, bearing anything catastrophic. Number 4 ranked recruit in Dante Moore. Again, he's not going to sit around for long. Higher upside, talent than all of these guys. We're both going to go with Shlee. Again, I just think he's such a good fit for this offense. Watching this tape, I had a blast watching it. And I think he's, again, the better replacement for DTR. Looking at Tennessee, the starter's kind of obvious, Nick, or is it? Because Joe Milton, this is a guy that was groomed for this role. He was, great fends with Hendon Hooker, 6'5", 245. Love his size. Big-time arm, has that experience. Some of his negatives certainly stand out, though. I think control, touch, the accuracy, those things all need to be worked on to kind of match that big arm. Are the expectations too much? I think is also something to monitor because, right here, again, another 5-star quarterback, Nico Amalaiva, 6'6", 200. I couldn't find any negatives on him. None of the scouting reports wanted to say anything bad about him. I couldn't find any either when I was watching some of his tape. This guy has great height, a big arm, a creative player of escapability, high-end work ethic. He's also a great runner in the open field. I mean, this guy just sounds to be multi-time Heisman winner written all over it when you see what he can do and what you see on these scouting reports. But he does not figure to be the starter here in year 1 down in Knoxville.
Yeah, I think, I agree with you. There's not a lot of negatives on Nico. I know we didn't list any. The only negative for me, I think, would be the weight. 6'6", 200 pounds. I think that balance kind of worries me a little bit. That's my only complaint. If your only complaint is your weight and you're still, a solid weight and the height is fantastic at 6'6", I think you're really a talented star quarterback. The film is fantastic in high school. This guy's got a lot of hype in Knoxville for a reason. That the arm is fantastic. Like I said, 6'6" is incredible height. Great runner in open field. I just hope he bulks up a little bit. There's a lot of time for that, but I'd like to see him get maybe 220 potentially. I think that would be a very efficient area to be at. 220, 215 kind of range is what I would hope to see him at. Joe Milton, I think Joe Milton's got to be the starter here for me. Size is great, right? 6'5", 245. 245, maybe too much, and Nico maybe too little, right? You want to try and find the middle ground there. I think the arm is fantastic. The experience is great. He's been in the system for a while, building up. The control, the touch, the accuracy does worry me a little bit. I think Josh Heupel is going to make the right decision here. I think Heupel is going to stick with Milton, at least for the start of the season. You can always make the switch if it doesn't work out. But I think Milton's going to be a good fit here for Tennessee. They are losing some weapons to the NFL draft. It's going to be a new revamped Tennessee Volunteers offense. I like Milton a lot here. I think the arm is just fantastic. Just got to be careful with the overthrows. Other than that, I think Milton should be the starter. But a year from now, I think Nico's going to take over these reins and just be an absolute menace in the AFC, SEC East. I think Tennessee is primed to be in a good position with Georgia. A lot of question marks going forward. I think we can see Tennessee start to
be the team to beat in the East.
That leads us to which of these will start and why. Joe Milton, once again, he was groomed for this role, sat and waited his turn. He's been an exceptional teammate. I think he certainly earned it. And he also played very well in the Orange Bowl against Clemson. No one, including myself, picked him to win that game. They did pretty handily, 31-14. He completed 68% of his passes for 251 and 3 touchdowns. finished the year with 971 and 10 touchdowns, no pick. So when he was put in action and limited action, and then that one start, or actually 2 starts, he played against Vanderbilt. He was exceptional. And then I think for the young 5-star, the potential is off the charts for Nico. They don't want him to get impatient, but he seems to be a very high character guy. I don't think that's going to be very likely. This will be Milton's final year, 6th year in college. Pretty sure he's out of eligibility, but nowadays you never know. This does appear to be Milton's final go. I think they're going to let him have fun for 12 to 15 games, however far they make it.
I agree. I think Milton should be the starter here. Like you said, probably should be his last year eligible. You have no idea this year, but I think the future is bright in Knoxville. And they got a quarterback that will lead them through the future with Nico. I think he should sit, learn the playbook, learn the system a little bit, and be ready to go for year 2.
That's going to be it for today's episode, guys. As always, Nick, I appreciate you joining me. These are, again, 7 quarterback battles to watch in the spring. Some very exciting ones here. Ole Miss is doing some interesting things. And, again, you have Tennessee and Texas with former high-end recruits that are, not going to be very patient. UCLA even. And then, again, you got your powerhouses like Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State looking for their next future star. So this is a fun episode to do. It should be a fun spring.
Absolutely. A lot of headlines here, a lot of different teams making moves. This is a huge time in college football. We have a lot of new quarterbacks coming in, a lot of different faces on campuses this year. I'm excited to see what these coaches do. A lot of teams have a lot of question marks, and they'll certainly start to answer them throughout the spring ball.
All 3, Bama, Ohio State, and Georgia, also have new offensive coordinators. So once again, another little twist and turn there. This should be a lot of fun this year. It's going to be it. Nick, thank you.
Absolutely.
Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.